Yes.
Jason.
Do you want to go live? Now being 6:31 on July 11th, I'll open the meeting and planning board meeting. Colleen, would you take roll call?
Michael Lonnie,
Here.
David Benz,
David?
Counselor?
Here. I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention. Isn't that usual?
Antonia,
Here.
Jay Tiverton,
Here.
and Chair Bill Contardo.
Yeah. Okay, and Michael's taking in for the absenteeism. And with us also tonight is Dean Teflon and Brandy Laughlin, one's the director and the assistant director. There's nothing that I will announce to the participant but the board. When we do CPUs, or conditional uses, it doesn't mean that we're setting precedents throughout the community. What we're doing is we're looking at the specific project or the individual as it relates to their circumstances, and any condition that we give is just for that particular project, and it's not far-reaching into any other part of the community. So I just want to be clear on that. All right, tonight, which is a continuing hearing for the 86 residential unit there down the Weirs on Endicott Street. So I will open a hearing on that at 6:32, I believe. And I will look for the staff outline, anything the staff have to say in regards to that project right now.
You want it now, not after the presentation?
Well, I would have it now, just so we have some feedback on it.
You want our full recommendations, like from the staff review?
No, I mean, just bring me up to date what they did. You had TRC, you had that kind of stuff, right? No.
Sure. So
Right.
the last meeting we had was in June, and they did a presentation to the board. Since then, we've had 2 additional TRCs.
Okay.
And as a result of that, we have some proposed conditions of approval and recommendations.
Which we get, the board get a distribution today?
Yes.
Okay, good. Will the applicant want to, and you're not Pat, you look like a Pat, but you're not Pat.
I've been told I sound like him, too.
Oh, okay.
I bear the distinction of being his son.
Well, that's a good distinction.
So Ethan Wood with the Patrick Wood Law Office, representing Phoenix Capital, and the Gardens at Winnipesaukee. And I wanted to take a moment and I think we've actually got some copies of those for the board, but I wanted to take a moment and go through and update you all regarding everything that's happened since we last spoke. The Conservation Commission we met with last night and discussed the plantings and other things of that nature, including the vernal pool, et cetera, and I believe you've received a copy of the report from Mr. Rathburn. So I won't belabor that point other than to note the discussion we had regarding the vernal pool and the impact. And while I am hesitant to speak for them, the impression that I received was that they were not opposed to a directional shaped buffer, even if it's not so-called a directional buffer. And to that end, I have some additional information that I'm happy to share with the board. I think a lot of it already has been shared. For instance, last time we were here, you all asked us for some science on vernal pools and wetlands and whatnot, and while we will get to that, I did want to provide you with some of the documentation if you haven't already received it. I know it was,
Is that the Jason Hill?
What do you got?
it's the Conserving Vernal Pool Wildlife.
It's another one, okay.
I believe it was sent to you all, and I've prepared some bullet point takeaways from that. So,
Okay. I'm old and senile. Tell me what document you're going to segue with us right now.
I'm going to go through the updates from the DOT, the DES, the Water, Electricity, and Fire Department, and then we're going to talk about the vernal pool and the steep slopes. And as far as being old and senile, Mr. Bounds, I doubt the latter, certainly. If you would like to proclaim the
Faith in
former,
the former?
if you would like to proclaim the former, who am I to stand in your way? And again, I do believe that information was submitted regarding the vernal pool, so with the handout that you've just received references that document. Regarding the DOT, the left turn lane that they're requesting requires us moving some poles on the northerly side of Endicott Street, and we're currently working with them to figure out how to do that, as well as Eversource. And that sort of jumps down to the electricity side of the updates, and we're in discussions with Eversource about putting some of those poles underground rather than above ground, as that would eliminate some of the issues that we might have on abutting properties as far as accommodating that left turn lane, given the sides that are necessary on both the left and right side of the street. Regarding the DES, we submitted updated information to wetlands, including alteration of terrain permit, which is in process. And we were asked previously about a rain garden on the property, and we've been able to locate a place for a rain garden where the soil works and everything else. And if you'll notice, it's right around this area up here. So we are able to put a rain garden in, but unfortunately, the land doesn't really permit additional rain gardens beyond that. But and then the sewer connection, we're in process with the people who do that. As far as the water goes, it's been reviewed by the Laconia Water Department, and the construction type changes are okay by them. I talked about the electricity, and then the fire department had specifically requested certain things, including that an alarm system be installed, which we are planning to do. A control gate has been proposed and approved, and finally, the fire department hut at the entrance will be built as well, and that's, it's a small little hut that'll be somewhere around here. So, and we'll certainly update the plans to show that when it's prior to recording them. So, on the new side, the vernal pool is really the big one. And we have a new plan that I'd like to share. Jason, do we have that handy? Is this?
Yes. Yeah. I'll hand this out.
Which is a little bit different than the existing plan staff has, and I apologize for the late presentation of it, but we wanted to make sure that we clarified exactly how much land was going to be impacted around the vernal pool and how much was going to be a permanent impact versus a temporary impact.
Have you changed the footprint? Have you changed something about the size with this, or are you just giving us an example?
That has temporary, that has the temporary and permanent impacts broken out, as opposed to the same plan that was submitted, the exhibit plan, which...
But you haven't actually changed what it'll look like on the ground,
No,
right?
We've just clarified the...
You just wanted to show us
impact areas.
what we lost and what we gained.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, we note specifically here, this is the entire vernal pool area. This is temporary, and it'll be replanted, revegetated, et cetera. This is also temporary and will be revegetated. So the permanent impact is actually about 7,200 square feet, 7,185, and the temporary impact is roughly 6,200. So really, the permanent impact that we're talking about is 7,100 square feet rather than the 12 or 13,000. And again, that's our fault for not providing that information sooner prior to staff, but we noticed it today when we saw staff's report. So it's not staff's fault, that's certainly on us. But we'd also note that what we are doing as part of this is increasing the buffer area here and making sure that all of this area is also vegetated, and then increasing the area up here. So what we're actually proposing is about a 2,000 square foot net loss, I'm sorry, net gain, net gain in total vegetated buffer area around it. So it actually is a better plan. And then, while I understand that there is no ordinance or whatnot that talks about directional buffers for vernal pools, there were 3 types of animals that were discovered in that vernal pool area. The fairy shrimp, which spend their entire lives in the vernal pool, the spotted salamanders, and the toads. Now, in some of the documentation that we've provided previously, we specifically talk about the there is specific discussion about the migration habits of the spotted salamanders. And what they tend to do is migrate where there are rodents who will build tunnels underground, which, again, is not likely to happen anywhere that's already been disturbed. I mean, this is a rock pile, basically, right here, and this is a loam pile. But all of this is untouched, and so the salamanders are far more likely to, and this is according to the documentation that we've supplied, et cetera, and the science behind it, and I make no guarantees that that it is anything other than that as far as what we've read, et cetera. But there's no reason we have to doubt it. Basically, the spotted salamanders, as they migrate from the vernal pool, will head down toward where mice may live, which would be in this wetland area, and then the area that's all trees. So
I think that the last, excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, by all means.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think the last time that you were here, some members of the board, including myself, were looking for some science with respect to this, some additional,
Absolutely. And
information, and if there were some evidence of other jurisdictions, whether in New Hampshire or in other states, who have approached this problem in a similar fashion, that is, let's not pay homage to the radius that's established by the ordinance, but let's use common sense and look at what the real impact is if we do it, not to use the word directional, but in the manner that you suggested.
well, and I think, if I may,
Sure.
these documents that have been supplied would outline a lot of that. And in fact, the other jurisdictions, that I mentioned that do use directional buffers, specifically Maine, but Massachusetts has also been looking at that, and that's one of the states that are mentioned in there. as well as New Jersey. And these are states that are focused on protecting the wetlands. So unfortunately, wetland science and the whole idea of protecting vernal pools and everything is still relatively new regarding development. So there isn't a whole lot of outside jurisdiction. And I would note that the one state where they do approve directional buffers is Maine. But the science in the document that I've provided is quite clear that the specific fauna that's impacted by this are more likely to migrate in this manner than into a rock pile or to the pile of dirt.
I'd like to also add that Attorney Wood's office submitted a document attached with the CUP application for the vernal pool impact. It's from the Army Corps of Engineers Northeast Regional Office, and it was titled Vernal Pools Best Management Practices. That document was from January of 2015, and I don't have extra copies to hand out, but it had been submitted with this application. It identifies specifically directional buffers or directional corridors, it calls them, as effective mechanisms for connecting the vernal pool
So I'm not clear, do you folks have that stuff? Do you have
to
that? Okay.
other elements suitable for amphibian habitat. In this case, we have this case, we're actually, it is a wetland complex that's connected to
That's right.
to the vernal pool. And this path through the wetlands complex and its associated buffer zones, which we'd be preserving through open space and other measures, is about a 550 to a 575 foot path or corridor. So we provide this of roughly 84,000 square feet area. So that's a couple acres of land at a 550 foot corridor as a directional buffer. Also supplemented with the most recent revision that I issued for this project, Revision 12, where we added this area right here into the open space, and it's directly adjacent to the 100-foot setback, and it's an area of roughly 7,000 square feet, which would be added to the open space. It would be, we're proposing to plant shrubs and wetland-type grasses, wildland grasses, and that area would be added to the open space. It would be an enhancement to the existing 100-foot buffer. So at the end of the day, we have our impacted vernal pool setback. It's partially, there's temporary impacts associated with just the construction,
Yeah.
and then there's the permanent impacts, is the homes themselves, and you could call the yards a permanent impact, although the habitat, grass is a suitable habitat. So when you, at the end of the day, the development will take the existing, what I would call a vegetated buffer area, which excludes that rock pile, but it includes the loam pile here, which is about 40,000 square feet. That's the existing vegetated buffer, what I'm calling. And with the additional adjacent protected area, we'd end up with a net increase, although it's not all within the 100-foot section. We'd have an increase of 3,000 plus or minus square feet of vegetated protected buffer over what exists today, as well as what we're proposing for a directional buffer, which is 550 plus or minus feet of a corridor, roughly, this is a 40 scale plan, so I'll say it's roughly 80 to 105 feet wide. We're additionally proposing this cyan area, which is it's outside of the existing 50-foot wetland buffer, but it's a suitable area where we think this would actually develop into a wetland. But we're proposing to, and that's 21,000 square feet, almost a half of an acre. We would enhance, but we'd supplement, we'd add shrubs and grass cover habitat for creatures to this zone as well, which would also be protected in the open space. So we'd end up with this large area of green and cyan, which would be protected, wetland and upland buffer area designation.
Because in the end, isn't the question really whether you're going to do irreparable damage to the vernal pool and the wetlands that you're encroaching on? Isn't that really the issue? Whether you're going to do long-term damage to that ecological,
Right.
minute little ecological system there? That's the real question.
That's right, and I think, again, the important thing about that is, if this was virgin land that had never been touched, there would be some legitimate argument for the circumference,
The 100-foot barrier.
Right.
100-foot wall, yeah.
as a circumference, but where this has already been disturbed, and you can see here, I mean, this is an enormous pile of rocks, and this is an enormous loam pile, so it's not really suitable habitat anyway.
I get that. I get that, but
Right.
the question is, what you're proposing to do now. Let's assume, for purposes of argument, and I know the planning
Sure.
board's position, and they're defending the ordinance just like they ought to be, and I'm not quarreling with that, but let's just assume that you go forward with this, and 5 years from now, we've lost the vernal pool. What do we do then?
Well, so there are a couple of points to make regarding that. Number one, a vernal pool is not typically a year-round pool of water.
I get that. I get
Okay.
that it comes and goes.
And we don't know at this point whether or not the vernal pool existed prior to the development that occurred. And regarding what happens in the future, I think what the best mitigation strategy would be is to make sure that we're protecting it under the homeowners association. And we're basically putting up notice around it that this is a vernal pool, do not disturb, don't walk through here, and doing that in the best manner possible, rather than simply saying, well, don't build at all, because, again, if we don't build, you're not really saving the vernal pool either. And the only real way that you could save the vernal pool is not to do this
So what
at
way
all.
are you,
Not to do the project at all.
Right.
so what way are you improving the vernal pool by,
Well, one of the things that I'd like to say is that, and it's been said.
actually, get my question answered first. In what way are you improving the vernal pool?
Well, what we're doing is actually adding a lot more land where the
Okay.
animals that use the vernal pool as a
But you show the
breeding-
rocks and you show the
Yes.
topsoil there, so that's going to be leveled at some point or moved away?
To
How
a
does that help the vernal pool?
Moving it away?
Yeah.
I don't know that it necessarily helps the vernal pool, but the vernal pool really is in a basin, and what you have on some of these houses are basically retaining walls behind them that, again, will protect the vernal pool and prevent people from...
So in some ways, it's being improved. I think is that what you just said? Okay.
It is certainly, as far as the rock pile goes, because again, the layout of this land is
Yep.
such that,
Okay.
we're not talking about leveling it and starting over. The vernal pool is actually higher.
So what's
And
the
the land.
possibility of that vernal pool becoming a larger vernal pool with it tying into the wetlands? Is that a possibility?
I don't know. I don't have any information on that.
But it seems logical it could expand the vernal pool by the mere fact that it's connected to that wetland, right? Am
Well, I
wrong
think
to
it's
say
been
that?
connected to the wetland for several years at this point, so I don't necessarily know that.
Your engineer's nodding,
Well, I'm
right?
not a scientist, but, the hydrology, surface water hydrology into the vernal pool is not affected by the grading design because this vernal pool is in a cauldron.
Mhm.
It's a very small area, probably a couple times the size of this room, and we looked at it with the conservation. So the water that flows into that vernal pool is not being affected by the grading design. So we're not going to delete any water or change the surface runoff into it. Now, the wetlands it's connected to are below it.
That-
We're maintaining the flow.
I understand that.
calculating
So
flow
the connection between the vernal pool and the wetlands, is it connected?
Yeah.
Does that enhance those little critters, or does it help them overall? Or-
Yes,
So it improves the,
it
when we're
help-
defining as a vernal pool, our definition of that includes all the little critters. I mean, it's just not a pool of water. So that helps
That's right.
them
Amphibian habitat.
when the habitat through the wetlands, okay?
Right.
Okay.
This is, so they breed here and then live there,
Okay,
because that's where they're going to find the food.
okay.
So,
So I think, I don't know if that answered your question there, Counsel, but, you know, I think it improves it. If you leave it the way it is, it's not gonna, it could dry out. That's basically it. So we're now taking something, a natural resource away, so to speak.
that's right.
Anybody, any other questions?
What's the date of this?
I would like to say, and I don't know for certain, but I want to say it is 2015. And I'm afraid, here we go, let's see. Going through all the different things that they've referenced, the most recent one that I see in a quick scan is 2007. So it would be some point after 2007. And I can certainly provide that answer at some point in the future.
Okay.
Where-
Because,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Where is Windmiller and Calhoun based out of?
We're the different people. I believe one of them is in Maine, and I don't know about the other one, because I know Calhoun has written other things that have also been presented, and I believe they all reference Maine.
I just saw the original article. It's about 250 pages long. They have references in the article as early as 2006. It's extensive bibliography. So I know it's after 2006.
And there's actually one that I saw that was 2007, so.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the vernal pool?
What I like to do is do this in segments, because you have
Sure.
3 or 4 CUPs there. So what I'll do is I'll ask for the public input, and then I'll ask for the planning department. So any public input on the vernal pool component here? Seeing none, planning department?
You have our memo on the vernal pool. As you know, let me get to it here. No surprise, we are not supporting the application for that CUP for reasons that we have stated before. I do want to draw your attention to our recommendations, that if you decide to grant it, that there are some conditions that we think that you should apply to it.
And what paragraph is that?
That would be on page 2, under staff recommendations.
Is it,
So we have too many pieces of paper.
I'm,
So on page 2, under zoning,
no, this is a separate sheet
Yeah.
still. It's a separate, it's a
It's a
separate.
It's not that one, okay.
No,
It's this
it's
one.
a,
got a-
it's a three-page separate memorandum with respect to the vernal pools that directs itself to the vernal pools itself.
That's 68 CUP, is that what we're looking at? No?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And on page 2, that's your recommendation.
Yep.
If in fact so you recommended that if we don't, if we want to give a CUP, this would be the recommendation on how to approach it, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So I direct everybody to page 2 on that.
Okay.
Can you hand those out tonight?
It would be in this pile.
Okay, I have it then. Thank you.
Three-page one.
Got it.
Any input from the board? Anybody have any comments?
Well, I know I speak too much, I know that. So if I'm bothering you, just tell me to shut up. I listened well to that. So, here's the reality. The reality is that if this proposal were to adhere to the 100-foot circle, the impact, at least in my view, to the vernal pool would be the same or potentially greater than if they follow what they call the directional, I know you don't like to call it that, but the directional vernal pool. I was just reading briefly the memo that Schweiner, what's his name? What did I do with that? And if you understand what they're saying, and their conclusions is that, urbanization and construction is going to affect vernal pools, and that's inevitable. The thing to do is to minimize it and enhance it as much as possible with respect to any project. And I don't know where we got 100 feet. I don't know whether that was arbitrary or that came from some guidelines that everybody was using at the time when the vernal pools became an ecological counterpoint, but
And they didn't provide any evidence contrary to that, too. The conservation guy was here, and he's basically referred to it almost as arbitrary. I'm looking at the net area. If you keep that circle, you'd actually be going into areas that are not part of that existing landscape.
Well,
So you'd be artificially affecting it even more. And that's why I'm like, I understand the ordinance, but if the ordinance is to protect them, we have to say, in granting or not granting something like this, we have to ask ourselves, are you adhering to the existing property? And they need to make a case to do it. I think they have, and I respect the other staff recommendations to adhere to it. I don't see a reason to not
I
grant
think,
this.
Council, you sort of reinforced that in your own way, I believe. Is that what you were saying? About the arbitrariness of the 100-foot and all that?
I mean, no one gave us an argument to the contrary of that.
No,
And we
I'm
had a
just going back to
conservation
David
person.
now, and,
yeah.
This does it.
okay, all right, so,
I guess I got a question for the Brandy or Dean or whoever. The project summary that you indicate they're going to permanently impact approximately 23,645 square feet. Is that still accurate?
No, and that's, that again...
And that's what this
that's-
was all about?
That's correct. That's our fault for not providing a more updated...
Okay, because I missed it. How many square feet are you going to impact?
That's the net impact, which includes temporary and permanent impacts. The permanent impacts would be 11,045. The temporary impacts would be 12,600, and there's two of them, one on the north side of the vernal pool and one on the south, the roughly equal size each.
Either Dean or Brandy. Do you agree with that?
Is their number accurate? in your opinion?
I mean, we haven't measured it. I mean, we're,
I think,
as, to the extent that we agree and trust with all the other numbers that they have presented, yes. I mean, we have no reason to doubt,
So
to doubt those numbers.
in terms of the numbers they've given you, they've been reliable.
Yes.
Okay.
Any more comments or questions? Okay.
If I could, Bill? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could?
Yes, good.
So, at the risk of sounding a little sensitive, I would prefer that you did not view the 100-foot or any other number as being arbitrary, because when you get right down to it, every single number that we deal with in planning is an arbitrary number. When we sit there and say, a lot's got to be 10,000 square feet, the setback's got to be 15 feet, the front setback's got to be 30, you know, whatever number that you want to talk about when you go through the entire zoning ordinance, when you get down to it, they were arbitrary at one point in time. And we take them as being part of our ordinance and part of the fabric of how we do our business. So the 100-foot was put in for a reason. It was put in 2008. The Army Corps of Engineers study that the applicant has presented to us also refers to the 100-foot buffer number as a starting point, not as the end-all to be-all, but as a starting point. So it's not, you know, a pick it out of the air type of number, just as most of our numbers are not as well.
Well, I can accept that.
I just think, my
excuse me,
question,
I just wanna-
I used the word arbitrary, so
Yeah,
to mention it in the conversation we had with the conservation expert, they didn't have any science to back up that number, which makes it, in my opinion, a starting point. So when we look at this, we're not saying precedent that says, well, you granted it differently for someone else. The next person would have to go through the same process
Yep.
to me to prove that the nature of the 100 feet and why they put it there is acceptable. And that's why we've asked and beleaguered this for so long. And in my opinion, are they protecting, the nature of this natural swath that's not in any specific shape that conforms to this circle? And that's why I think they've done a decent job in providing it. Yes, it's going to be economically beneficial to do this, but that's why we look at these things, to not purposely, go to a circle line to push back development. So are they, if you look at the entire space affected, are they keeping towards the nature of it? That's what I want to hear a review on. If someone could say, no, these animals are going to be affected, it's shrinking the area, their development is impacting what's already there, I don't think anyone's made a case.
Yeah, and I agree.
that
I think just the geographic viewing of a circle is sort of arbitrary in nature. Doesn't mean that it is all arbitrary here, but
But it's a good starting point.
but it's a good starting point. I agree with you
Why
there.
it's an ordinance.
All right. Any more comments on this? Okay, why don't we have a motion on it? Would someone make a motion?
Shouldn't we take these in
We're taking them one by
the
one.
general application first, in which we deal with the steep slopes?
Well, we'll get to them. I'd like
I
to
think
take this
you
one
should
by
do
one.
the CUPs one at a time, because if
Yeah.
you do not grant a particular CUP, then you can't. It affects the project as a whole.
Okay.
We're looking at the,
Would someone care to make a motion on this?
I'd be happy to make a motion to accept this CUP. I'm not seeing, I have to pull the number up, it's like
0068.
0068 CUP vernal pool buffer application.
And do we, what about the considerations on page 2?
Absolutely, and I would add to that, to adhere to the recommendations by the planning staff. The staff recommendations mentioned.
is that A through F?
That's what it would be.
Yes, it is. Staff recommendations A through F
And then A through K.
on the,
And there's other conditions also.
yeah.
Yeah, A through K. the
I mean, we
second.
could go through all the sheets. Do you want me to
Yeah,
reference the whole entire thing?
yeah, I want to do project completion dates. Other conditions, I think you can just do 3A through K, and 4A through E. I think that'll cover it.
A through E?
Yeah.
Do you want us to mention the completion deadlines and all that, too?
Well, just adopt number 1 completion deadlines as recommended, in A through D, and I think we're good.
So, in the staff review sheets, staff recommendations, A through F, adhering to the project completion deadlines, all plan revisions, and the other conditions, A through K, and the conditions for final approval, A through E.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
So,
Opposed?
so did we get other conditions?
We shall vote yea or nay.
Just, are we all set in terms of
voted on
the
it.
approval? Okay.
We voted, we shall vote yea or nay.
Did
you vote?
Chairman.
Did you vote?
I did.
Oh, okay, so, okay, it passes unanimously.
Wasn't unanimously, I voted against.
You voted against? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
I
I
did,
thought you voted yes. Okay, I think we went back to the right hand and the left hand thing that Warren put in there. So we had one opposing it, okay. Okay, let's move on to your, let's go to your, you need, is a CUP for the steep slope as well as the sidewalk, is that correct?
There's another wetland buffer CUP for the standard 50-foot one. I don't know if you want to address that now.
Well, we could do that now, yep, I'm looking for that now.
Find the date.
What is the
0122.
0122?
It would be the 3-page stapled one that looked just like the other one, but not. If that's helpful.
Yep. I have 1, 2, 3. Has everybody found that 1, 2, 2? Because I don't seem to have it in my packet here.
Yeah.
You have it? Or you're on the...
I can give you an extra window, just make it easier. Again.
Thank you.
Good.
Again, we'll open that part of the hearing for this CUP. And again, would you...
Sure,
Can-
absolutely. Ethan Wood with the Patrick Wood Law Office. If you'd like, I can...
Pardon me? I can't hear you.
Do you want me to reintroduce myself? And
No, well, you could, just for the record, I guess, so we know who you
Sure.
are, though. So, no big deal.
Ethan Wood with the Patrick Wood Law Office, representing Phoenix Capital. And regarding the wetland buffers, there are a couple of areas where we are within the wetland buffers, and that's why we were asking for the conditional, the CUP on it. And specifically, I think, for the most part, none of the actual houses are within the buffer area, with the exception of one. Anything else that I'm missing on that?
Well, this plan, Jason Hill, TF Moran, project manager. This plan here has been submitted tonight, has been previously submitted in its same.
So this is what we've seen before, is that what you're saying? Okay,
Yeah,
right.
it's illustrating the temporary and the permanent wetland impacts of the 50-foot wetland buffer.
Okay.
A majority of them are associated with the loop road configuration, which is required for to eliminate a long dead-end road requirement. We also have impacts just for some grading. We have a roadway impact in this area for the same reason. You're limited between the property line and the wetland. And to provide the loop road, we had some impacts to the wetland buffer. We had some additional wetland impacts to the buffer zone near some of the units. The plan indicates the total area of the wetland buffer impacts, 24,965 square feet. Temporary wetland impact area, 3,690 square feet. And we're proposing, as a mitigation, we have modified some of that was partly the reason for the enhancement that we already discussed with regards to the vernal pool. It's to mitigate these buffer area impacts. We've also, as a part of this, agreed to provide this rain garden in the only area of the site that's suitable for infiltration of groundwater into the groundwater table is.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the only thing that we're talking about different than what you talked about before is the rain garden, right? You put the rain garden in there, is that the real primary difference?
Well, we've also agreed to put in signage that has yet to be
Signage, okay,
determined. We'll consult with
As
the,
far as the setbacks are concerned, and their relationship to the buildings and all that, that's still the same as it was before?
Yes.
Okay. Right. All right.
So, I guess my question, the planning board, the recommendation includes compliance with, I think this was the guy you hired, TFM?
Nope,
Civil
that's-
engineers?
That's Jason.
That's
That's
right.
Jason.
that's my memo.
And that's your memo. Well, it's nice to put a face to a piece of paper.
Thank you. Yes, we agree to those, they're a memo describing the temporary construction phase implementation of, BMPs and monitoring to protect these areas. We're gonna do secondary sediment barriers around the vernal pool and around the wetlands. So instead of having one silt fence, we'll have like a silt fence and like a stump grinding berm, as well as the permanent measures that I mentioned with regards to the HOA being responsible for inspecting the quality of the buffers to make sure it's not being deteriorated, invasive species management, things like that.
Do we-
The applicant agrees to those.
Do we have a mechanism in place as kind of an enforcement, or let's monitor this thing and make sure that the impact to the wetlands is, because this is a substantial amount of wetlands, and I know that it's disjointed and all of that, and I'm prepared to go along with your recommendation. I'm just concerned in terms of monitoring how we do that. Can we get weekly reports? Can we get, how do we monitor that? And what do you,
Would you clarify that to me also? Because it's during the construction and then after construction on an ongoing basis? Are you looking at the two?
I'm looking at the two.
The two, okay.
I'm looking at the two.
And we're happy to work with the planning department to figure out what would best work for them regarding the monitoring of those.
I think that also, I've specified on the plans that even, so that these areas, before they do any earthwork or clearing, they're gonna have to lay down these silt fences at the perimeter, and they're also gonna have to put down orange construction fence where they're up above the resource.
I want these guys-
Define that resource.
I want these guys to be comfortable with,
Right.
Sure.
And our conservation technician will be inspecting these. So one of the parts of this is, as Jason just said, they'll put down the silt fences and everything else, and then we will go out and inspect to make sure they're in the right place before they really start construction.
okay.
And then during construction, they will be monitored probably on a weekly basis.
And you're comfortable with that?
Yes, that's what we would do for any,
You
for any
wouldn't be looking for a
development.
third party to help out or anything like that?
I don't think so. That's standard, that's the
that's
standard.
standard,
That's
yeah.
standard. What you're saying is just, is standard. Those aren't, that's not flagged now. None of that's flagged. Is that correct? Whether that wetlands is flagged at this point in time?
Yes.
It is
It's
flagged.
been delineated. The wetlands on the property have all been flagged.
It's been flagged?
With pink
Okay,
and-
all right, okay,
pink
is that
and
it?
black flag.
All
It
right,
has been flagged.
all right.
Now, the buffers have not, but the actual wetlands.
The wetlands have been flagged, okay, yeah, okay. All right.
And then, like Dean was mentioning, like this, it's called SWIP, or Stormwater Management, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. The applicant will be required to prepare one. I think one of Brandy's, or the planning staff's conditions is that they are reviewing that document.
Right.
And a part of that SWIP
So what did you
is-
put into that? Did you put, what about on an ongoing basis? What's the time periods
We'd
for
like it to
inspection
be-
and review? Would it be
It's
drainage
weekly-
system? Pardon me?
Weekly or after a half of an inch of rain in a 24-hour period is the
So
threshold.
that's going to be inspected, after that project is completed, that's going to be inspected weekly
No,
That's
this is, I'm
during-
sorry, during construction.
during construction, and then after it's completed, what's the frequency at that point in time?
It would
Afterwards?
be up to the association as to how.
Well, I
because
think we should, well,
Once it's inspected.
wait a minute, is that the true, that's not a true statement. What would we want to
Okay.
have put in there for frequency of inspections?
I
What do we
believe,
normally do? What-
I believe the Conservation Commission has proposed an annual.
An annual, okay, all right,
Review.
so that should be in your documentation, or your documents that you're sending forward, okay. And I think we talked about this before, by the way, in the other.
That's right. And we're happy to have the planning department come out on an annual basis and inspect.
But that would be in your documents.
In the HOA documents?
Well, HOA is one thing, okay,
Okay.
and I would think that but that talks about inspections. I think this talks about more in-depth, what you're looking for, what you people are
Yes.
inspecting for, what you're maintaining, are you cleaning out your traps, what are you doing, that kind of thing. That's more of a maintenance issue that
Sure.
can cause affect your
And we
vernal
actually,
pool, you know what I mean?
So do you want,
in our stormwater management report, we have included a maintenance program for this drainage system that at least twice a year is a requirement for checking all the catch basins,
Right.
cleaning the sumps from sand
You
accumulation.
clean them out and all that, right?
And-
Now,
yes.
who came up with that, you or some other entity?
Yeah, it's TF Moran.
Okay, so that's the type of thing that we would need, and that would have to be registered and filed with the planning department.
It's going to be part of their
Right,
HOA.
okay, right.
Sure, yes,
right,
we can absolutely
okay.
do that.
In the conditions too, you're saying that they need a certified wetland scientist to oversee the wetland restoration and creation as well, so.
Right. Yep.
so, do we need to change the conditions here?
I don't think so. That's part of the staff. I think we can go with what the
think it's
staff
still
has
part of it.
presented.
Okay.
That's up to them to tell us what they're going to do, and they'll be checked.
Right. It doesn't give you the time.
Is everybody satisfied at this point in time? Are you satisfied with
I am.
Okay, anybody else, any more comments? All right, I'll close the session, and I'll entertain a vote on this. Would someone want to make a recommendation, or Charlie, or anybody else?
I have a question.
No.
Wait a minute, we're calling for a vote here. Are you going to make a recommendation on this? What do you?
I wanted to ask Brandy, do you go along with this time frame where they set the time,
Set the time for,
the inspections?
I think we talked about once a year, which I think is sufficient.
After construction.
Okay, so you're okay with that?
Yeah, we just,
Okay.
okay. All right, so I would entertain a motion
Okay.
on this CUP.
I move that as to application number 0122 CUP, that we grant conditional approval with the following conditions. 1, A through D. 2, I'm not sure what that means, plan revisions, as noted in this full staff review. Is there something they need to provide an additional, or they've already done that?
That's just referring to the other
Okay.
full site plan approval.
Okay.
Okay.
3, other conditions, A through K. 4, conditions for final approval, A through E. Thank you very much.
Second that.
Second on that? All in favor? Raise your hand. You got the right hand up? Okay. Passes unanimously. That's a true statement this time, right? Okay.
Right, and then the sidewalk,
Um,
and the sidewalk waiver.
Yeah, I'm looking for, which, I got some of these in front of me here, I just gotta catch up with it all. So that one is, that's the 0079, is that correct?
I don't believe the waiver has a number, does it?
It doesn't? Oh, okay, that's, the steep slopes has a 0079, is that right? Because it's all in one, no, there's a comma in between, okay, yeah. Okay, so they want a waiver, what would be a waiver for, Counselor?
And I apologize, I'm going to take a moment and get myself organized before I answer.
I'm looking at, what application are you looking at, Bill?
There's not an application for the waiver,
It's,
for the street waiver,
it's
there's not. It's just,
But that's part of the,
that's what I thought, but it
part of
doesn't
the
show it that way.
part of the
It affects
recommendations.
multiple applications, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
You have the staff review for it.
It's part of application number PL 2016-0120SP, comma, 0121SU, and 0122 CUP.
And 0068 CUP.
Those O's are zeros.
Yep.
Yep. Zeros, right?
And for the record,
Okay.
those O's are zeros.
Thank you very much. Just curious, because you got letters in there, too. Just asking.
I've got a letter from,
That's good.
So which CUP are we looking at now? Is there a number to this, to the street, the sidewalks?
Do the steep slopes, or you can do the waiver. The waiver does not have a number.
That does not, that's waiver for the sidewalks, does not have a number.
Right.
Okay, so why don't we, without having a number, why don't we move forward on the waiver for the sidewalks? Just point out where, and we'll keep it trite, because we don't want to mix everything up here. Where is the waiver from to?
So it's one sidewalk.
And then, were you talking?
I don't remember that being part of the conversation.
Yeah, just up there. Just up around the detention
it
pond.
says
One
Woodland
sidewalk.
Woodland
It's a
Drive.
it's a portion of a sidewalk.
That's right.
You were saying
there's
sidewalks, and I got
road.
nervous that.
Well,
You only
yeah,
have to put them on one
sidewalk,
side
right.
of the road.
One sidewalk,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yep.
The sidewalk ends, actually, so from here, from right here to here. And part of it's in the wetland buffer itself. It would be on the buffer side of the sidewalk, so we want to, the road is steep, although it's as steep as it is in other areas, 6 to 7%. There's no adjacent homes. We're trying to keep with the spirit of the ordinance to minimize excessive impervious surfaces, especially in buffer areas. For those reasons, we would request a waiver for the sidewalk from Station 117 to Station 122 along Skyview Lane.
Right.
So that would go from the, around the sewer pump station, or that building over there?
That's
The
right.
community building? And then we'll go around to
Number 80.
the first lot there, or the first house? Okay?
So you see the houses stop here.
You mean further up, further up? Well, not where he's pointing, right? He's pointing before that house.
Well, this is where the driveway to that house is?
Number 80 you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Well, I think we should go a little further up, but that's subjective at this point in time.
Yes, it actually, I'm corrected, it starts along Oriole Drive here, but actually this little wedge with there's no...
So in lieu of the sidewalk, does that mean the road, in lieu of the sidewalk, does that mean the roadway width gets wider?
No, we're keeping with the city's standard.
I mean, what's that?
We'll have to look at the details. It's usually
Which one?
24 feet wide, for two-way traffic.
And the main reason that we have the road there is because the fire department was requesting it, because we don't envision that being widely used by
But it's
anyone.
going to be used. I mean, people are going to use it. They are. It's a road.
Okay.
If you put it there, they'll use it.
You put it there, they'll use it. And you'll be like running vehicles
Well,
along a road with and having pedestrians without a sidewalk.
What
I
pedestrians?
mean,
So people gonna walk that, too?
sure.
Because they just going for a walk?
With the street.
Okay. I'll buy that.
If you put a road there, people are going to use it. If you put people in houses, people are going to walk there. But that's just a given. That's going to happen.
And there is a platform adjacent to the road that it's currently designed with a platform that would support a sidewalk. However, it just wouldn't be paved. So right now, we'd be giving this community a grass panel, which they could safely utilize. The only time they wouldn't be able to use it if there was a
Their feet
steep
might
slope.
get
So what would be the
That doesn't
reason
sound
for
like
a
the
car to
spirit
go up
of
there?
of the ordinance to me.
There really isn't a whole lot of reason for a car to go up there, because, again, if they're gonna leave the property, they're gonna come downhill rather
Well, I mean,
than-
is it a destination up there? Why would someone drive up there? Any particular reason? Any need to go up there? No swimming pool up there or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Look, this is, I'm not comfortable with this. Nobody's going to use that road to walk on. Nobody's going to drive that road. That's just not true. It's going to happen. People are going to walk there. Vehicles are going to use that road, period. Let's accept that.
And we do accept that, we just don't think it'll be widely used, and we think that the sidewalk it isn't really necessary and something that's not going to be used by the community in any significant manner.
So do we get into a numbers juggling game? It's like 2 pedestrians a week is okay, 5 pedestrians a week and you need a sidewalk?
No, I do
No,
not
you
want to
need a
get
side
into
panel.
that. I do not want to get into a numbers juggling game.
If I could, the other thing that staff wants to point out is that the walkway through the wetlands
Yeah.
actually terminates right in the middle of the area where there would be no sidewalk.
So how would that thing go now? How would that?
Wait a minute,
go?
there's a walkway to the destination point
You
through
just
the
approved-
to the wetlands that terminates where you want us to
No
give you a
sidewalk?
waiver to sidewalk?
So where does it come out now? Do you mind pointing that out?
Let's go look here.
The walkway?
This is a tough sell, you know that.
Shown,
Not exactly, yeah.
no, it's not.
Basically on the...
I mean, we are happy to eliminate that walkway. We certainly,
I think the walkway through the wetlands is a really good idea and a really good selling point for your project. And I think that many people would enjoy the walk to the end of the road where they will come into a sidewalk that will take them back up or down the road and home again. Just my thought.
Okay, any more comments on that?
I have a question.
Any more
Where
input?
that, the walk through the wetlands, where that comes out, how far is it to the sidewalk that is going to be there?
Yeah,
On this bottom end? Down here.
it's gonna be, if the walkway comes out in this vicinity,
Okay.
then I've got
Where does the sidewalk actually
about
start?
120 feet
Where the sidewalk is?
estimated, yes.
What about up the other way?
That's 80 feet,
Gotta be more than 120 feet.
160 plus, yeah, roughly almost 200.
100 feet? It's a nature walk.
What's your comment, Charlie? What's
I
that?
said it just could be part of the nature walk. You don't have a sidewalk, you get grass or ground. I mean,
There's
you
no
know.
So it's-
sidewalk going through the...
I'm not sure what you're
I'm just saying, to me, it's not a big deal that there's not a sidewalk there,
Okay.
because it's not that far. It's 100 feet or whatever,
Right.
and I can't imagine somebody freaking out and saying, oh my God, there's no sidewalk here.
After not walking on the sidewalk.
They're gonna just freeze. I don't buy that. I just
Well,
think
you're going to
it's...
go walk in the road then.
Well, yeah, and
Or then
it's
continue
actually
down
more of
the
a
side
driveway
panel,
to me than a
down the
road,
grass,
because
which is
how
what
much
they're
traffic are they
asking
gonna have there?
for.
Look, we require
if I-
sidewalks for a reason.
I just have a
Well,
question. If I lived up here, and I'm asking you guys, because you're probably more familiar, if I lived up here in this back area, and the entrance to Route 11B or C, whatever it is.
B.
B, thank you. Is that here or over here? Is this the entrance to it?
This is the entrance to
Okay,
it.
so
That's
if
it.
I'm up here, because traffic normally goes where how water flows, it goes the shortest distance, they're probably going to go out this way. So occasionally, somebody may want to maybe they want to put mileage on, or enjoy the view, they'll come looping way around. But I go to Walmart a lot, and there's an entrance up there that runs parallel to State Route 11 there. There's also the other ones that go along the middle and over by those other stores. Every now and then I'll go out that other way because the traffic's too bad over here, or I just want to go that way, to be different.
Which
Everybody-
Walmart are you talking about?
At Walmart. So if you go up to Walmart, because I'm using this as an example, they've got a road that goes up where there's, they put all their bags of soil out there and stuff there. It's, it used to be.
I'm talking about after you get into the parking lot.
Yeah, so there's that, so most people use the entrance, that's also the most congested, but because it's the shortest route. Very few people go out around like that, even though they're not gonna hit all the traffic. Most people don't use that part, because it's longer. And I'm suspecting, could be wrong, I'm suspecting that most of this traffic is gonna filter down that way, because that's shorter. It's a shorter route. I'm just saying, I'm not saying nobody's gonna use it.
I'm just suggesting that a waiver based upon the premise
Right.
that it's not going to be used a lot
Yeah,
is not my idea of good planning.
I get that, and I would.
I view the waiver as being the premise being safety. And is it a safety issue to walk in an area on that road that has not got a sidewalk? In my view, it certainly is not a safety issue. I mean, where I live, there's, 1,000 cars a weekend, and there's no sidewalks, and they're walking down the streets and under all the standard width roads. We have never had an accident, thank God. But the point is, you got 82 homes here, and the way I view it, what would be the probability of 5 cars per day going around that way?
82 homes, 164 cars, maybe.
Yeah.
Come on. It is a safety issue.
So
Well-
I think one of the selling points of a sidewalk is connectivity, which I think they brought up in the recommendation too. Because it also is a natural loop. So if you're a jogger, it's a perfect way to connect, and it adds consistency to the design. I mean, this really is a nice jogging route.
Would they jog on the sidewalk, or would they
Again,
jog on the road?
I think
the road.
Yeah.
Well, they would jog, there's no sidewalk. If
But if there was a
it's in the
sidewalk,
road.
they'd probably jog on the road anyway, but go ahead. Yeah.
I don't,
probably bike in the road too. But it's
I don't get, we've got a sidewalk requirement for a purpose, and it's a safety issue. And there's nothing about this application which suggests that they've addressed safety issues or anything like that. And so, I'm not,
Well, how about we do this before we choose to go...
I'll give
in
you
any
your shot.
direction?
Take your best shot.
The trail through here comes out about here. Right, there was about 80 feet before the sidewalk started. So if we put the sidewalk just for that 80 feet, so that it was connected, would that work?
No.
Okay.
No,
I see a
because
lot
I
of
think you
people
gotta,
walking that way.
the sidewalk's gotta follow the road all the way around the bend. That's my thought with respect to this. People may disagree with me, I
I
don't
have
know.
a question. If the fire department's the one that requested that road there,
Yes.
couldn't you just have it fenced off?
No.
It's not with...
It's not a fire department requirement. It's part of your zoning ordinance.
Oh, that road goes
If
through...
you have more than 50 units, you have to have a loop road.
Oh, because you mentioned fire department, so I...
You have to have a what, did you
You
say?
have to have a loop road.
A loop, yeah, a
You
loop.
also can't have a dead end or cul-de-sac road longer than a certain length.
Correct,
Yeah.
unless you tee it off in some case, but
I heard the
are
fire
you saying
department.
put a bar across, a
Not a
gate
bar,
across?
no, but it doesn't matter anyway. I was just thinking
Okay.
those things you can blow right through. In other words, it's not locked or anything, it's just, so a truck could just nudge it, it's not gonna do damage to the truck, it
Right.
just swings back out.
We have a method like that, don't we, somewhere in the city? I thought we did.
I've seen them in other areas,
Drive
I
through.
haven't really looked for them, but I've seen them in other developments around
Well,
the
this is
country.
gonna have a gate.
No, he's talking about where the sidewalk ends, so, the cars would have to turn around and go the other way. I think that's what,
It's a moot point.
That's what
though.
he's saying.
It can't happen.
Can't do that.
So, really, it's a connectivity issue. If they're on a grass trail going through the swamp there, a grass trail coming out to a sidewalk is not a big deal, but if you think about it as the loops in this development for wheelchairs or anything else like that, it's a nice connective way to connect your whole entire neighborhood. I don't know what kind of financial impact it is. I think it would
Well,
actually
we don't get
benefit
concerned
I think
about
it would
that.
benefit your development in the
Right.
long run.
Right? We don't get concerned about the financial.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I think in the long run, even economically, it would benefit them.
The sidewalk, you're saying, okay. All right, any more discussion on this? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion. Do you want to make a motion there,
I
my friend?
I move to deny the request for a waiver for a portion of the sidewalks located along the northeast portion of the development.
Okay,
I second it.
and to take that vote, all in favor of that motion? Raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, so it's been denied. Okay.
Was that 4-1 or 5-1? 5-1.
Left the whole site.
Steep slopes.
Steep slopes.
All right, the next one would be the,
Can I
steep slope.
ask a question on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Mr. Board? Would you accept instead of a sidewalk, a widened shoulder? And
Well, that's why I asked that question. You said it's going to be the standard road width.
Yeah. it's-
So I asked that question because I was giving you wiggle room to say you were going to have the road wider, and you would put a yellow stripe along the edge.
because I can use-
But I think the horse is out of the barn right now. I don't think you can...
I guess I object because we moved on the motion.
I know,
We
I
don't
just-
have anything pending, so.
I'm just letting them know that, the horse is out of the barn. So, it's over. Okay. 0079, CUP 0079, and that's the steep slopes, and I don't have it.
Isn't that part of,
That's in the full staff review, which,
That's a big
so if you wanted to do that together with the subdivision and site plan review,
Okay,
Dean, do you think that would be
Yeah,
okay?
that's fine, yeah.
I think that would be okay.
so what else is part of the overall?
So what you have left is the full site plan review, approval, full subdivision approval, and the steep slope CUP, which I think you can take as one discussion and motion with this staff review.
so,
Is there any need for the applicant to speak on this, or
That's
if he
the
wants to, I
applicant.
guess, right?
I think I've probably talked your ear off, and I know my father has previously regarding this,
I think
so...
you've done a good job on that, so you know. So,
I'd really like to hear from the planning department with
Right.
respect to this. That's,
So, in this situation, we've had the steep slopes reviewed by third-party review. All of the outstanding issues have been addressed, so we are comfortable recommending that you grant the steep slope conditional use permit. The subdivision and site plan approval, we are recommending approval. As you note, however, there's quite a laundry list of conditions, most of which at this point are the stormwater engineering review. So we did add, if you go to page 5, that's where all of the conditions begin. So we did add a condition that, number 3, the applicant must revise stormwater plans and stormwater management plans, reports per the third-party review. And the applicant must submit escrow funds, which we have received at this point, and that no construction is to begin until that's been addressed to the satisfaction of the planning director.
I'm not
That's-
seeing that. Am I in the wrong?
That's on page 6. 6 of 9.
Stormwater plan revisions?
So that's kind of an unusual condition, but in this case, we've got the funds in escrow to complete that review. It might delay their final plans a little bit longer than normal, but all the processes are in place to make that
So
happen.
if in fact this moves on,
Yep.
and that plan, once it's reviewed,
Yep.
would be an administrative approval on your end?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's clear
And
that
if
up.
there was a if there was a problem, and you said this plan isn't good enough,
Yep.
they could either come back to you with another plan, do they have any other recourse?
Basically, what we would anticipate is that they would continue revising the plans until they've met the requirements of the engineering.
Well, let's imagine the unimaginable.
Yes.
And
So,
you
if they
just-
get to the
That
point...
you and the applicant just can't agree
Yep.
as to what an adequate stormwater plan is. What's their recourse?
I believe
Can
at
they
that
come to the
point-
planning board?
I believe at that point, that's
And
what they
duke
would
it
do.
out?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
But if they're lucky,
We don't anticipate getting to that point, but I appreciate you planning for contingency.
Well, no, you had expressed some issues with the state of their plans before.
Yes, yep.
During our conversations, and I just want to make sure that you're satisfied
Yep.
at this time that if they don't, they have adequate plans for almost all of the project.
Yep.
For this exception for the stormwater plans, you've got a process in place
Yep.
that's going to satisfy you and
Yep.
ultimately be of benefit to the city of Laconia.
And yeah, I think at this point that just the stormwater is what's outstanding, and I think it's manageable.
Okay. And are you acceptable to all of that?
Yes.
And I submitted, I don't know if the city got a copy.
Yeah, so,
Actually,
yep.
already resubmitted in response to the Belknap County's third review.
Okay.
The comments, I consider them very manageable, and we agreed to do, if I haven't satisfied all of the comments that he laid out, which were not many, I agreed to do those on behalf of the applicant to make those revisions. So.
Well, imagine that. The planning board, the planning
We're all on the same page.
planning department, and the applicant are all in agreement.
We absolutely are.
that does happen. That does happen, you know. It really does happen.
Oh, happy day.
The only other thing I want to point out is I did in a few places reference condominium documents, and it should say homeowners association because it is not a condominium. So I would ask the board when you make your motion to kind of give us permission to change anything that says condominium to homeowners association.
So where would that be?
So that would be under number 4A and then 5H.
Okay.
You just want to change condominium to homeowners.
Yep, and then under 5H III, 3, however you want to call it.
I think we can just say.
Okay.
At all places
so,
where
too.
condominium documents appear, it should be changed to reflect homeowners association documents.
And then there'll be one sentence that or two sentences that I want struck, because they would only apply to a condo.
Okay, and what sentences
And where
are
are those?
Excuse me?
It's not the,
No, it's,
Why would you highlight impact fees in yellow?
They're in there, yep. Yep.
Is there a reason for highlighting them?
Yes, I generally try to do them in yellow, sometimes they come out gray, but because sometimes applicants aren't aware and they're kind of tucked at the back, so it's
Okay.
just an attention thing.
So you want 3H struck in its entirety?
Just the first two sentences.
Okay.
No, in its entirety, I apologize.
So 3H in its entirety
Yep.
goes. That's
Yep.
4H, Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, and 4, right?
Yes. Thank you. Because the sewer stuff's already covered.
Okay.
Any other paragraphs that you want struck?
No, thank you for that opportunity.
Randy, did you say that you have the funds in escrow? I missed what you said.
Yes, we have the funds for that continued third-party stormwater review in escrow.
Right, thank you.
Any more comments, any more questions?
I just got a question with Dean. You're good with this, right? Okay.
One more thing I want to mention, I'm sorry, I just want the board to acknowledge and understand, you're not, and you can officially prove that it is a phased project. I heard you saying that.
It is a what?
It is a phased project.
Phased project.
And the phases are laid out in the plans, and staff have reviewed them.
Isn't there language in there that they're going to complete them by phases in accord with the plan?
It is.
Or
There it is
ask
in
for a change?
Yep.
Do we have that language in there? Okay.
And I have a document I can hand out tonight that has our phasing I'd like to hand it.
No, it's okay. I don't,
Randy as a,
I don't need to know how you phase them. It wouldn't help me at all.
I think we're good.
Any more questions?
To make a motion.
Any more questions or comments? Okay. I'll close the hearing, and I'll ask for a vote. Make a motion on this, so I'll ask the council. David, would you mind making the motion, please?
Yes. Make sure I'm getting all the numbers. Application PL 2016-0120SP, 0121SU, and 0122CUP, and 0068CUP. I think we did
You did
couple of
those,
these
but you do
before.
need to add 0079 CUP.
00779.
9. Thank you.
That's a steep slope, right?
Okay. Have I got all the numbers?
It's universally understood.
Yay.
I recommend that we grant conditional approval with the following criteria. 1, project completion deadlines A through D. 2, plan revisions A through H. 3, stormwater plan provisions A. 4, homeowners document revisions
this item.
A, and I'll take care of the condominium at the end. 5, conditions that must be met prior to approval or recording of the Mylar, A through G, and H is to be stricken. 4, conditions, that would be 3, 4, 5, so this is 6. Conditions to be completed prior to the start of site work, A, B, and C. 5 would be 7. Have I got the numbers right here?
Yes,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay,
Tough
7,
word.
A, through B and all the subconditions of B, C through G, H and I, I'm doing this separately, and J through N. 8, as-built plans A and B, and in all places in which the words condominium documents appear, we'll substitute homeowners documents because that, in fact, is what they are.
Thank you.
Do I have a second on that?
Nice.
Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Charlie seconds it. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, all in favor. Well, I guess you guys are all set for the moment.
Yeah, get out of here.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
You the guy that did this before? A year ago? Longer?
Here.
Has anything changed? I don't remember.
We're now looking at considering 183 Messer Street. This has been previously accepted on June 6th. So I'll open the hearing at 7:56 and ask the applicant to present the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Howard from Stephen Smith and Associates, and I'm here representing Irwin Motors Corporation, Chris Irwin. We're bringing before you again the Messer Street parking lot project. You all familiar with the location, right? Messer Street and Bisson Avenue. Messer Street, Bisson Avenue is here. Irwin Motors Automotive Sales is in this area. This is Winnipesaukee River. So it's a triangular piece of property that is encumbered by a area and use restriction because of what was on the property years ago. It was a coal tar site. It has been remediated. It is under a monitoring condition presently, and this area and use restriction keeps anyone from doing anything more than 24 inches into the ground. If it doesn't say you can't, but if you do, there's a lot of conditions and monitoring and extra work that goes involved. So for the most part, a parking lot on the surface of it is a good thing. We did come in about a year ago. We presented and got approved a porous pavement parking area approved for this site. When Mr. Irwin presented it to his contractors, he heard a lot of opposition to the porous pavement for that particular application. He got very concerned about the long-term stability of it, and so we began to investigate other options for him on the property. So what we have come up with at this point is another porous surface, but the profile of it, if you will, the width of it is substantially less. Because the porous pavement requires many layers under it, it actually built the site up, and it created slopes all around the edge. One of the concerns was that those slopes would be damaged because of the movement of all the traffic, the vehicles that would be stored there, and also the tight turning and that there might be damage on the pavement. So we've come up with an alternative, and the alternative is this. There is a proprietary product called Gravel Pave 2. It's about 1 inch thick. There's a filter fabric that's fused on the bottom of it. This is placed on the ground and filled with 3/4 inch stone, according to the specification of the manufacturer. This we're proposing an 8-foot perimeter around the proposed parking area of this product, on top of a porous gravel.
How much 3/4 inch stone?
A 3/8 inch stone
But how deep?
to fill this. This is
Just
about an
fill
inch.
that, okay,
Yeah,
right.
and with a little possibly on the top. That would go on top of a gravel stone mix that we actually had the planning staff go out and observe. We sort of manufactured it, and we've dumped water on it and found it to be porous. So it would be that product on top of this gravel stone porous material after we had stripped the loam off this. So we're proposing taking about 8 inches of material off it, proof roll it, compact it, make sure it's all stable, put the gravel on, then put this product around the perimeter, 8 foot wide, infill the rest of the perimeter with this gravel material that we're proposing, gravel and stone material, and then loam and seed around the rest of it. Now I have this darker green up to this dark line right here.
Let me catch up with you for a moment. So you're going to scrape it off, right?
Take off the loam.
And then you're going to put a gravel stone mixture, which
Yes.
you work with the
Yes.
planning department.
Yes.
And then you're going to put that just on the edge?
This-
Or across the whole surface?
This product would be 8-foot perimeter.
Perimeter?
Around.
Okay. So on that gravel stone mixture would be, when you, above that, you would do your hot topping, is that correct?
No hot topping.
No hot topping.
No, it would be this gravel stone
mixture, which would be porous.
Right across.
And
I
then
don't
this,
understand 8-foot perimeter. So is there going to be...
I don't know,
They're
can you
going
see
to
this,
cover all the gray, or no?
can you see this light gray line?
Yeah,
That's the 8-foot perimeter
okay,
of this stuff.
of this stuff. And what
Inside
does that
that,
do? What's inside of that?
this is,
Oh, no, what's inside, what's the triangle inside of that?
Right.
the dark gray would be the gravel stone mix that
Okay.
we're proposing,
And
which is
what's-
porous in itself. That would be about an 8-inch layer of that.
And what's the green stuff?
The green stuff is loam and seed,
Okay. All right.
Grass.
grass, topsoil, grass. And the slope, we're keeping it very, very gentle. Goes from less than 1% to about a maximum of 1.5% in this area. So the idea is this material would catch any water that might run off from it, although we're not anticipating a lot. There's a couple of other things on site. He's going to keep the flagpole and the light that illuminates the flagpole.
So this product is going to catch the runoff? Is that
Well,
right?
I would say this product, because it has the 3/8-inch stone in it, is more porous, although than this material. So if, for instance, some of this, the water that hit this material ran off, it would run into this 8-foot perimeter of this, at which point it would,
So visually, you would see like a stone area around the outside. That's
Yeah,
That's
and-
what your eye would see. That would be below grade, below the stone, and the water would permeate over to that, and then go into those cups where the water's.
yeah, except one difference, so we expect this material to be porous as well. It's just a different,
Right. I understand that.
a different material.
I understand.
Instead of covering the whole site with this stone,
And the
which would
purpose
be a
of
lot...
that is for runoff, and
So-
that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about, is runoff.
In the 500-year storm that we're having about every 2 weeks now,
No, wait a minute. Now, document that, because some of these storms, they're not 500-year storms, but anyway.
I'm just concerned about the runoff.
Yes.
And how you address it, and...
That is
I'm not the
exactly what
pro
we're
here.
addressing.
These guys know, if you think that addresses the runoff, I'm happy, I'm following you on this.
You got to look at the site as it is today and how it's being used today
I drive by it every day.
versus what they're proposing, and what they're proposing is a vast improvement. We have to do something.
Okay.
This is a vast improvement.
We have
Is
to do
it-
something because,
Because the current site is not environmentally good,
because of runoff?
because of runoff, because of mud, because of a number of factors. They're also getting much closer to the property line than they'll have with this plan. You see basically the grassy strip along Messer Street?
Yeah.
Right now, the trucks are basically right up to the sidewalk, so
They're
we're
up to
going to
the fence.
gain some extra buffer areas as well.
And only,
Except where they
it
go
looks
out
like
to
a
the road.
half-inch
Right, yes.
slope is the maximum?
No,
Going
yeah,
from 1 inch to a half, 1.5
1 and a half in this area here. It's, up here, it's very,
What's been the experience
Hard to run.
of other places?
There's only one other place in New Hampshire where I'm aware that this was specified, and that's at a Walmart in North Conway. Now, I haven't been there. I called North Conway. They didn't really, the people that were in the store didn't really even
What are you talking
know
about?
anything about it. I called the Walmart corporate, which is a very efficient organization, really, but they could only tell me about the design, so...
What are you putting anything on the gravel? Is anything going to be on top of the gravel?
No, the gravel will be
Vehicles or anything?
the surface. It's gravel stone mix.
Okay.
So did you talk to anybody in the planning department up in North Conway?
No. No.
In the industrial park in Laconia,
Yes.
you had a site just like this where you put a different type of product, or is it a closed product?
That's the porous pavement, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that seems to be working fine. I went over and looked at it.
Yes, but I mean, I designed it for here, but the difference between that parking lot and this parking lot is that he jams the vehicles in there. There's a lot of tight turning, which is a lot rougher. It is on the porous
Well,
pavement.
the porous material is large aggregate.
It's
So
large
that's why it
aggregate,
allows the water
more
to
voids.
pass through.
Yeah.
So it's not a tight-knit product.
Yes.
And
They-
like you're saying, that would be worn out in a very short period of
It
time.
could
I
be.
would believe. But that buffer, is this 8 feet from here to that wall? About?
No, that's more than 8.
What's 8 feet? Show
6
me 8
feet, I have a 6 feet span.
So you're another
So that-
foot or two beyond that. So
Six,
you're
2
about over
feet
here.
beyond that,
So you're
yeah.
about over here, okay. So that's the buffer all the way around, that kind of
Yeah.
a buffer, okay.
This. And this would be the highly porous,
That's the porous.
plus
is
the
buffer.
10-foot of grass, yeah.
So you're gonna put that in, and then you're just gonna lay gravel, some kind of gravel thing over the whole thing? If the gravel that you use in the interior is gonna be the same thing you use with that gizmo?
That goes over it.
Or is it
Under
different?
this, under this.
Yeah.
We're going to put this gravel-stone mix over the whole site. This will go around the buffer, and the gravel-stone mix will be, that's all it will be in the middle, in the interior.
So you're actually gonna see this? This is gonna be filled with gravel stone? This is?
There's a 3/8-inch stone that goes in this.
Okay, all right. Now I get it.
I have a question, winter.
Yeah,
If it freezes, if you have snow on top of it and it melts, are you going to have issues?
no, they will plow it,
Okay.
and one of the concerns about this material is what happens when you plow it. And so what they provide and recommend is more or less a ski that goes on the bottom of the plow,
Okay.
so the plows don't catch those edges and pull them. And the thing about this is that because it's the 8-foot perimeter, it could be rebuilt. I mean, if there was damage to it, so.
I just have a question, Mr. Chair. You mentioned tight turning. You said with a tight turning, there was a concern about something you were talking to.
The porous pavement.
Is the tight but where is there tight turning? Is it inside the parking lot? Is that what you're talking about?
Maneuvering the vehicles to park them.
Okay.
Yeah, I viewed it a little differently. I viewed it, you turn the wheel of your car, or dig in.
Yes, well, that's the
That's
idea.
not what it grinds into the top.
I just wonder about the tight turning on Messer Street, when they enter Messer Street.
Oh, when they go on the Messer Street, okay, well, that's a different question,
Yeah.
okay, yep.
The entrance, we had a 26-foot wide
That's 26 foot
entrance
wide?
in there, so I don't,
The entrance for the parking.
yes.
What about on the street? How wide is the road out to the yellow line?
See.
Just a rough guess, you don't have to.
No, I'm going to give you the number.
Okay, because, I've never been a big fan about this. I understand Irwin's situation. I mean, to me, the railroad is the guilty party here, because they should be able to build a crossing over those tracks, just like they have now. But, as Councilor Bounds knows, Messer Street, and you all probably know this, Messer Street is a very busy road. I mean, it's the way to avoid 3 lights going up the other road. So a lot of people use that road. And for me to be building this, another driveway, a commercial driveway at best, in that particular part of the road, versus where Tile Oil is or Public Works Garage is, it just seems like the road, and he's gone. I was going to ask the Public Works guy. It seems like that part of Messer Street is a little more narrow than it is further up by Public Works. And I could be totally wrong about that. I do know that when you would never have room on that part of Messer Street to have a line of parking.
Well, you bring out a good point.
Like you do on Messer Street, further down towards Church Street. They have parking spaces there.
Well, you
Because the
bring out a
road,
good point, because what's the egress now of that area? Is it on this other street?
No.
no.
How do
How
you
do
get
they
the
go in and
cars
out of
into
there
that
now?
area now?
They
They
go
come
in
over-
from,
they come
they
over
go,
railroad
you go in
tracks.
from the Irwin side, right?
Yeah, there's a crossing here that the state has been trying to get them off from.
And God knows why. Was it because all the passenger trains that wore through here at night? I just don't understand the state's thing on that, and it's not the fight for us tonight, but that's why I feel for Irwin's. I just think this is a terrible idea to have that on that part of Messer Street, because that is a tight, when they're gonna come out of that driveway, they gotta yank that wheel, especially when traffic's coming the other way. They can't go over that yellow line. And if you look at Messer Street, it's wider down towards Church Street, and then when you come up to the railroad tracks, the first set, it narrows back down again. I used to live there, so I know. And then you get back up, when you go past Bisson Ave, it widens back up again. That's how they're able to have parking spots in front of Dutile. They
So the
can't go
use
over
on
there.
that is,
But you got great line of sight from where they're proposing to
Yeah, well, I
put the
know,
entrance.
I know how great that is for.
well, so the use
driving
on
in
this is
general.
what, for parking inventory, right? What are they using that for, the park inventories?
Yeah.
Store
Yeah,
vehicles?
for sales,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I'm not
I mean,
gonna
it's
vote against
32
it. I'm
feet.
just-
Master
No, you're
Street's
bringing
30.
up points, and I'm just trying to clear up in my head, is what you're saying.
Charlie, my-
I think the
Fit it in.
state's the guilty party here.
I think I understand what you're saying, but, they're using it for essentially that purpose right now.
No, I'm not concerned about the purpose.
No, but I'm just saying, what they're doing now, the only thing you have was concerns about is the new entrance onto Main Street.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That's the only thing. And I understand, I don't get the state with the crossing there, because there are people, they have crossings all up and down that line that people use for private crossings, and well, for heaven's sakes, we've got a marina that put a bridge in, and it's basically their bridge. They keep it up, and they put it down when the train comes. It's totally opposite of most parts of the country. So go figure that one out. So I'm just saying, to me, they're making Irwins go through a lot of work here, and the end result of that, I'm not happy with, because of the Messer Street on and off thing. That's all. I guess my hands are tied as far as anything. I guess all of ours are, but...
All I'm saying is, for us, it was not an option because of the railroad requirement.
I wish the city would go
What's the
after the railroad
requirement,
on
did you
that.
say? What's the requirement?
The railroad has asked us to get off from, stop using that.
Oh, I see.
They're allowing Irwin to use it temporarily because Irwin has said that they are seeking an alternative. They used to come in over here, but that was stopped as well because it was a bad
Corner.
corner.
And
So-
if I have one other question, maybe you guys in planning those. It seems to me that the cut there for pedestrians, mainly school kids, when they come over from the junior high and they're going up to Union Avenue, they cut. I mean, we all did it. When we went to high school,
Along
we
the
always
river.
walked through there. And if I'm not right, I'm thinking that's been kind of like a semi-approved walkway there, because Irwin's has never stopped people from walking there. They've never put a fence up.
Do we have the easement?
I don't know if we have an easement, but it has been part of the plans that the city would receive an easement for a potential future walkway. That being said, we're not assigning, we're not saying that Irwin is saying it's okay for people to cross their property. I don't want to get
No,
into that.
but the railroad has never stopped pedestrians for, it's called nuisance trespassing.
No,
Right.
that's
They've
true.
never stopped that. They've never stopped that.
That-
So they allow that,
I know.
they allow that, but they're freaking out about this. I just don't understand it, that's all.
Well,
They make them put a fence up along the Wild Trail to keep people from crossing onto the tracks, but they know this exists here, and yet they're going after Irwins about their, I'm sure that the guys are looking before they cross the tracks, but they've never said anything about the pedestrians here. I'm just pointing out it doesn't, they're not being,
you mean the state of New
Consistent, thank you.
Hampshire is acting in arbitrary and capricious ways?
bureaucrats down in the DOT.
Come on.
Not the state, the bureaucrats at the DOT. That's my 2 cents on it.
I say good luck trying to stop 7th and 8th graders from crossing
Well,
the property.
yeah, but if somebody got hurt there, that somebody would sue the railroad and say, "Hey, you knew this nuisance existed, and you did nothing to stop my kid from crossing those tracks, even though you know they were crossing them." And the state would lose in the court, or somebody would lose in it.
Well, I know Mr. Irwin has suffered damage to his vehicle. People crossing that property and scratching the vehicles as they go by, so.
Okay. So, what they're proposing is better than what we got.
Well,
Much better, yes.
Okay.
you're talking about for the topsoil thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But it's a package deal.
And I understand your concern about the driveway onto Messer, but as much as I'm sure they would like them to be, the trucks are not flying off that lot on a, I mean, they're selling trucks, but there's,
Yeah, no,
it's
I
not,
understand.
it's not a heavy traffic type
I
situation.
understand that, too, I do. It's just, I don't know, it's just the whole, it kind of has a smell to it, because they're being forced to do this, and I don't really get it. I just don't get it. If they stopped crossings all over the place, I did see in the paper they're going after people parking too close to the tracks up there, and I do understand that.
Charlie.
But this one I don't.
They aren't at the table tonight.
They never are. Nor will they ever be. I'm just making my 2 cents heard on that. I said-
all right.
I said it the last time. Didn't I? I talked to you about this before.
I'm going to direct the planning department to write the railroad a stern letter. Okay.
Okay, is there anything else you want to mention?
No, the only other
Okay.
thing, we are proposing an improved pedestrian access crossing.
Bing. I just, does the DOT know about that?
Yes.
Right, there's talk about extending the river walk around there
Yeah.
and coming in there.
So the DOT is going, approves that, the pedestrian crossing.
There's a
across the
license,
tracks.
it's very specific. There's liability, there's insurance,
Right.
there's those kind of things associated with that. So yes, because it's necessary for the sales there, so.
Okay.
I rest my case. Makes no sense at all.
Is that,
I think we got it.
that's your presentation? Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
I would just want to add, Mr. Chairman, if I could, when we were talking with Peter about this a few months ago, we did a little demonstration with the product, and the water does go through the fabric and all that stuff, so that's good. And then we also went up to the parking lot at Meadowbrook, and he had prepared us a little test bed of the gravel that they were proposing to use, and it takes the water.
Well, that's scientific.
So you had a lab,
Yeah, we had a little road trip.
But I-
Road trip with a little lab sat in
I have
there.
a concern that Gail has, and that's...
One of the nice, warm, sunny days we had in whenever it was, April, and it.
I have the concern that Gail has with the winter and plowing and stuff like that. Now,
So,
I think it's going to be disrupted, it's going to be disturbed, and
well, so based on that concern, it's not in the staff review, but we do have an option for the planning board to consider. You could add an additional condition. Under 5, you could add condition F, that the planning board reserves the right to review the conditions of the site after 1 year of completion to ensure the site functions as intended.
okay, that's a good F.
Something to chew on.
I will say, we did see it once before.
Charlie, there's no other option, it seems like, you have to go out that way, right? So,
Well, I
trying to
think-
put you
I
at
think
ease,
there
and
is an
I
option,
know
and
you
I
have a
think-
concern, I do, yeah.
I think there is an option, Mr. Chair, and I think
What is
the
it?
option is that the city of Laconia call the state in and say, this doesn't fly. So, that's but that's not for me to call. I think the city should be more active and say, hey, this is not right. The city got involved with them for the WOW Trail, because, there were a lot of bending down there on this other part of it. So,
Are you going forward with this application tonight?
Yeah.
Do you want to grab the option of asking the city to petition the Department of Transportation or the railroad or whoever running it these days to reconsider their position with respect to your access to this piece of property? Or would you like to go forward with your
Let's
application?
go forward with the application.
that was a no-brainer.
Charlie?
We're still in the hearing. What I was trying to say was, we saw this once before at the industrial park right up in Laconia, and it works.
Just not this drainage thing?
The same product.
No,
This
it's
product, you didn't
different.
see that product, no.
It's different.
Different product, yeah, just a different product.
The way they put it down, exactly the same way.
Did you see the article in the paper today about Pogus Bay Road?
August Park.
Okay, so I'm going to,
There you go.
My gut.
I'm going to end the public hearing, I don't think there's anybody out there. So,
And,
I wanted at 8:20.
Can I just
And,
ask one question before you?
Yes, go ahead.
Close. The additional condition, I'm just a little bit concerned that after a year, what would happen? Could you say you couldn't use it anymore, or?
Yeah, that's a little, never mind, I'm not going to comment on it.
Well, I would think that you would have to refurbish it. You'd have to bring it back to where it was. If the plows dug it up and all that, I would think that.
Well,
that would be the
I think
you
a
go back and-
businessman is going, he's
I mean,
going to,
What?
I think the businessman in him is going to keep it, maintained.
Well, we hope so, but this is something that, it's predicated on those being in place and drainage being the way it is, and if those aren't there, then we lose the drainage functionality of it. So that's an important component to the whole system you got there. So that we got to maintain the integrity of that going forward. So,
Look, they're asking to do this so they can address a problem they have in terms of access. What they're going to do is, according to the planning department, is improve the site.
correct.
Imposing future conditions of maintaining the site is, to me, a little bit redundant. They're building this for a purpose. They want to be able to use it for that purpose.
Right, but what we're considering here is not the purpose per se that way, but the drainage component to this. And that's a very integral part of our thought process and our approval right now. Now, we've done the lab 101 out there and watched the drainage right now, it seems to be fine. But what happens if a plow digs that up and it becomes non-functional?
They fix it because it's
Well,
in their
that's
best
what we're saying.
interest
They
to do
put
it.
And under F, they fix it, that's what we're saying. So, it's all out there, it's up front, we have a concern that's a new product for us, it could fail, and if it does fail, you're gonna put it back in. That's all we're saying here.
And to keep in mind that what we're proposing for the surface is a porous material as well.
Right.
We're putting this on there as sort of, as a
Quick drain.
buffer,
A quick drain.
as a delineator,
Right.
some kind of different look to it. And we're maintaining a fairly level playing field.
Yeah,
So,
What's the
And we-
half-life of this thing? Do you know?
longer than all of us, probably 100 years. That material that they make pipe and that sort of stuff out of now is,
500 years, but the point is, what would the mechanical problem be, a plowing that out, digging that up? So, I think you need that paragraph after sentence in there, myself, okay, so, there's no public
if it-
here, so we'll close the public hearing,
If
obviously.
it would put your mind at ease, Peter, this is not intended to be a gotcha type of situation, and,
No.
we would let you know that, in a couple of weeks, we want to come out and review the thing, and it's a one-time review, it's 1 year, from completion.
okay.
Okay, so, can we, get a motion? We'll close the public hearing, any more input? But, I'll entertain a motion, from the floor.
I'll do the motion, but I'm not going to put in the one-year review. Somebody will have to add that by amendment.
No, we'll add it in
Yes, I
by an
will.
amendment.
Okay. Application PL 2017-0076SP. I move that the board grant a conditional approval with the following criteria. 1, project completion deadlines A through D. 2, plan revisions, none. 3, conditions that must be met prior to final approval or recording of the Mylar, A through F. 4, conditions to be completed prior to the start of the site work, A through C. 5, conditions applicable during and after constructions, A through E. 6, as-built plans. 7, subject to a 1-year review. There.
Oh, you put it in now.
That's general enough. That's
Put it in,
general
okay.
enough to satisfy everybody.
I have a second on that, and then we can open it for discussion again. A second on this, on the motion?
I'll second it.
All right, any more discussion on this? Yes, Charlie?
I'm going to abstain. I just want people to know I'm going to abstain. I don't want to vote against this because I understand the situation they're in.
Right.
But I don't want to go on record as saying that I support letting the DOT or whatever it is bully these people into going through this expense. And I'm not talking about the surface. I'm talking about a new entrance onto Messer Street where they could just as easily be going back out the way they've been coming. I don't see the necessity for that, except that somebody down in Concord does. So I can't,
So you,
I can't in good conscience
so
vote.
abstain?
vote. I wanted you, and more importantly, I wanted you to know, I'm not going to vote no, because I understand the situation, but I'm going to abstain because I don't want to be a party to approving what the DOT is doing.
You know, for the record, I would think that abstaining and having that put in as your reason would be important in the minutes, and so, I mean, if that's...
Well, that's what I want. I
Acceptable to
mean,
you. Okay.
I fully plan to make a stink about this with some people in Concord, because
Okay.
I think this is really, it's ridiculous. So
Okay,
I just wanted you to know why I was abstaining.
No,
So it's important to me that my peers
no
know that.
problem at all, no problem at all. Anybody else on the discussion? Okay, no more? Okay, we'll call it to a vote. All in favor of the motion? Okay. It passes, but... I hear you.
Abstention.
And we have one abstention.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Next.
A simple parking lot turns into this. I love life.
I do, I think it's a shame.
so we don't have the applicant for Big Island, is not here?
Right here.
Right here.
Oh, you're here, okay. All in one person, okay. So,
That thought.
What's
I
that?
was bumming that they weren't here. I was like, oh, that stinks. Good.
so, the applicant, just talk
Again,
about...
all right. Peter Howard, Stephen Smith and Associates for Big Island Company, New Hampshire Big Island Company, and Scott Everett, the owner of Big Island. Are you familiar with the location of it in Paugus Bay? What we are here for tonight is a conditional use permit to impact wetland buffers, not wetlands, but the buffers. There is well, just a little bit of history. The cottage that's on the property about 1950, sometime after that, there was a utility line that was laid on the bottom of Paugus Bay, telephone line, electric cable that went out to service the island. Couple of owners later, and then the electricity never worked, and Mr. Everett purchased the island, and he had us investigate, why the electricity didn't work. It didn't take very long. We did a little investigation back on Paugus Bay, where it, Paugus Park and of Paugus Park Road, where it were connected to the utility pole, and we found it was broken, and we had somebody look at the cable, and they said it was totally the wrong cable to use anyway. So we investigated the possibility of getting a new line out to the island. And I said, well, we could put another one along the bottom, but the way they do it is they put it out, and then they put these heavy blocks on top of it all the way out. It gets about 28 feet deep, at some point about a third of the way between here and the island. So anyway, directional drilling was coming into its own at the point, so we said, well, what about if we investigate for you the possibility of directional drilling underneath Paugus Bay and getting that electricity, and we could also add water and sewer, and so we've directionally drilled from Beach Club condominium, that area out under the water and came up in this location. And it's been that way for about a year. Because it came up in this area, we're in the buffer. This green line, of course, is the shoreline of Big Island. This reddish pink line represents the non-buffer area on the island. And a normal buffer around a wetland is 50 feet, but if it's contiguous to surface water, then it is 75 feet. That's the ordinance. So we had to offset this line, this green line, 75 feet, and it resulted in this red line. This structure right here is the existing cottage. So we're here now with these, with this conduit bundle, and we would like to get a conditional use permit to temporarily impact crossing it into the upland, into the non-buffer area, and then provide, bring the utilities over into the house, the existing house that's there here. So we have two impacts. Here it's about 311 square feet, and here it's about 803 square feet, a little over 1,100 square feet total. Temporarily, we'll restore them and replant them. We've been to the Conservation Commission. They had us adjust our notes a little bit to accommodate restoration. We would leave a transformer and on a pad in the buffer, and also a pedestal, a flush pedestal for the cable, the MetroCast cable within the buffer. Other than that, the lines, the sewer, the water, the electric, and the cable would all be underground. Then it would be restored. They'd come into this area so we could hook them, and then back across here, into here. So we could hook up, so the house would have all the utilities.
So what would be permanent there?
Permanent what?
What would, after you were all said and done, you were hooked up to the house, what would we look?
We're going to have a transformer pad with
Okay,
a transformer on it, because we have to transform this electricity that comes, to make it usable.
Okay.
So that,
so that would be permanent.
yeah, that would be sitting in the buffer, and then there would be a flush, a pedestal, that the MetroCast cable would come into and transfer the junction, if you will, and then go to the house.
Is it dangerous? Do you have to put anything around it?
What do you mean, dangerous?
Transformer, is it dangerous?
No, I mean, no.
No, you got,
I mean, you can't be, you have to be a certain distance away from houses and things like that, but we're plenty of distance there as far as that
okay.
goes.
Just
And-
my scenario.
Yeah, and the other thing is, the transformer they're actually proposing is a very environmental one. It's non-rusting. It doesn't have the oils in it that regular transformers have. It's a environmentally friendly oil. So they've gone the extra step to.
The definition of a transformer is to go to multiple locations, correct?
No, it's to step down the voltage from the feed line to what the house could actually use, the 120.
But you're not using it to go to multiple locations on that island.
No, this
So
is
it's
a
gonna
higher
be-
voltage coming
It's
out.
going to be used for one house
Yes,
on that location.
yes.
And the issue was that they could have gone further, but they just didn't get in further enough with that, when they did their drilling.
It surfaced here.
Peter, do you have to get a permit from the state to do this? Because you're going into the water.
It's under the water. We didn't touch the water,
Okay.
which is actually, pretty, we did get a shoreland permit, both sides.
Generator? Backup generator?
There is a backup generator, yes, and that already exists, and that is here. It's run, that's actually existing, and it's a propane-fired
Okay, for the for the
backup
sewer.
Yes.
It's an outage.
Yeah, and there was a question about that, whether if ran out of electricity out there, if there was any, what would happen to the sewer, would it overflow and all that. But the backup generator that we do have is capable of operating the pumps that would send the sewer back. It connects to the sewer line back at Pogus Park Road.
Okay.
About 1,400 feet.
So does that generator been started and used? I know the older ones
Yeah.
don't start like the new ones. The new ones cycle themselves up periodically, but
This one cycles itself.
that
yeah.
one does, okay. And
That's a proposal.
that's it? Okay.
Yeah.
Planning department, any input?
Nope, we went through TRC as usual with all of the departments. There are a couple of requested notes that came from the Conservation Commission, as Peter mentioned. It looks like he incorporated them, so we'll double check that when he sends in his draft final plans. Other than that, we'd recommend approval.
Any input from the board? Any questions? Any concerns? Okay. Then, can we get a vote on this? Does someone want to?
Okay, I think I made too many motions
I've
tonight.
already made one.
That's his limit.
This is the easiest one.
I can do it on my own.
We'll be 2 and 2, Mike.
Okay, sounds good. So I would make a motion to approve the application PL 2017-00C77 CUP for wetland buffer. Let's look at all your conditions here. With the following staff recommendations. 1, project completion deadlines A through D. Plan revisions A through A, B, and C. And other conditions A through E.
And?
Conditions for final approval, A through E. I had to scroll down. Thank you. You could have
Sorry.
easily done this with all that experience.
No doubt. Sure.
So,
I'll
I think
second
does
that.
it.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Second. Now, I see over here we have the purpose saying for that one house, et cetera, et cetera. In this application, in the CUP, is it in there, somewhere in here that says the same thing, the same verbiage is in there? I didn't notice that.
What do you mean?
Well, the application for conditional use
Yeah?
talks about being used for a single house, et cetera, and
Yep.
and basically says that's the sole purpose of it. Is that in this CUP somewhere? This is,
In the conditions?
yes.
No, because they're asking for impacts to the wetland buffer. They're not, it doesn't really, the use doesn't really impact it. And the use is determined by the use chart, so it's, it's a single-family house now,
Yeah.
So this is what we're looking at.
So this is for a single-family house, okay.
I'll stand by the motion to do what we said.
Seconded, Charlie, all in favor?
Thank you.
Now you can go home.
And you, maybe.
Okay, no other applications, any new business? Old business? Review the impact fees.
Can I?
Name is on here, David. Brought up
I'm not,
August. So do you want to discuss that, or?
I'm going to be candid with you. I'm not prepared to deal with the impact fees tonight. I'm just not ready to tackle that problem. And it's a problem. I won't call it a problem, but it's an area that I think we need to spend some time with if we're going to make any kinds of changes to the impact fee structure that we have. And I think, just my first initial review, is that there should be some changes to the impact fees. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. I don't think these have been reviewed since when? Since we instituted them, right?
Been a while.
What is your what's your concern with the existing structure, like primary concern with it? Just that, is it effective?
I can't even articulate that, because we've got impact fees for Lakeport, we've got impact fees for downtown Laconia, we've got impact fees for the Weirs. Should we consider other impact fees, how we deal with the schools and all?
I think you're confusing impact fees with the TIF districts.
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
because I think they have to be dealt with together. Okay?
You're saying that they
So,
should, okay.
as we go through the impact fees, we've got that some are allocated to schools, some are allocated
see.
to
Okay.
different various departments.
Police,
And,
fire, recreation, that's like.
yeah, so, and I'm just not prepared to deal with it, but I think that the TIF districts impact it in terms of how we structure the impact fees. I could be wrong, and I'd read a little bit about what Dover does and how they do it, and that's probably a good thing to follow, but I'm, quite frankly, unless everybody wants to go forward with this discussion, but I would have nothing to add.
No, let me ask, can I offer this? Maybe, do we need a little historical perspective brought to us?
Well,
Kind of thing, and
we
then...
ought to understand.
Right.
Maybe we should table this, ask somebody to just give us a brief memo. If it takes more than 15 minutes, you could shoot me, I give you permission, to tell us what the history was to begin with, and what you think the proposals could be. Because I'm not even certain what the council is looking for. So I need to get some more clarification from the council.
Okay, so could I add to that, as far as perspective and how the numbers were formulated, percentages, and what areas that, I know in the day, it was percentage by each department or certain departments, that kind of thing, and utilization. So maybe we should have a little blurb on it, a bunch of bullets, one-liners. Is that okay, David? Bunch of one-liners?
Yeah.
I know you like the one-liners.
I don't want the planning department spending a lot of time on this. I know you guys are busy. I know you've got a lot to do, so I don't want, give me a 10-page memo by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I just want a little overview.
I was hoping it'd be less than a half a page, a bunch of one-liners.
So if you propose tabling to what, till the next meeting? and then- Okay, that's fine. We can
I
do
would
that.
second that.
All right. Okay,
Can I bring up a question?
I guess we're all in agreement with that.
In the past, when we
should take
waived
a
these
vote.
fees, weren't they set aside in a certain account?
Yes,
Like
yeah, they are divvied up. Yes, they are
Set
divvied up.
aside somewhere, that's
Yep.
when we waived them.
Yeah.
So the motion is that we'll have something put together, little one-liners for the next meeting. It was seconded by Michael.
Yes.
Okay, and can we vote on it? Any, all in favor of that? Okay, not opposed. Planning Department, report.
A few things for you.
Okay,
I don't know if any of you were on the website yesterday or today, but we have the new city website is up and running. So if you haven't, by all means, go to
Get into
the
it,
usual, Laconia.
I was
whatever,
surprised. I clicked
NH.gov.
on it yesterday.
Yep.
I didn't know it was installed, and there it was. I was like, wow.
So we have some work to do on content, because most of it was just ported over from the old website, but it has a very different look and feel to it, and we'll get the content up to date in the few spots that we have.
no
As-
vision statements at this time. I
No,
guess.
so there is, as part of the new website, is a new agenda tool,
Okay.
setting agendas, and so the next, we hope, next month's agenda We got a couple of issues with the agenda tool, but we hope with next month's agenda, you will see some differences on the agenda. It will look a little bit different. As part of that, the city altogether, all the city departments have come up with a standard agenda in terms of flow and content. So it'll be a little bit different. I just want to give you that warning.
Okay.
And the powers that be have so deemed, and so we will comply. All right, so just take a look at the website, and then just be forewarned.
Okay.
Hopefully next month, the agenda's going to look a little bit different, but that's okay.
Could you send me a copy of the new agenda 3 weeks at a time?
Yeah, that's right.
Is there a play button too, randomly assigned up here?
Yeah.
To a bunch of
Yeah,
YouTube
if you
videos?
happen to run into awkward things, go ahead and give us a call, and if it's not our department, we'll get in touch.
Yeah, we'll try to get it fixed.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, unfortunately, we're working on it.
Well, I clicked on it, I'm like, what's this do?
What you click on.
Want to remind you that we are still looking for up to 2 more representatives for the Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Do we have
Anybody's
any,
interested in doing that, and they do not have to be board members, they could be someone else. So
Oh,
if you
did you reconsider
know of
that?
someone that might want to do that for
Would you-
us.
Think you want to do that?
I've met with the, what's his name? Scott Myers.
For the Lake Region Planning Commission?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What did you meet with him about?
I would love to do it, I just don't see it happening.
So
I mean, I haven't talked to anyone really more.
keep in mind that we have 2 openings. We're entitled to 3, we have 1 person on it right now, so we're get
Who's
2
on it?
openings.
Who's on it right now?
Dean Anson, I
Yeah,
believe.
Dean Anson.
Yeah.
And like I said, you do not have to be a planning board member to be, I mean, it could be, so, a neighbor or a good friend that you want to, bestow all this enjoyment on, might be someone
Here's the
to.
truth.
Can you be a resident?
If I ask my neighbor to be on the Lake Region Planning Commission,
Has to be, no, I have to be, well,
Every community,
should be a resident.
One of the Lakes Region communities.
Should be a
every
resident.
community
Yeah,
has-
they all have their own reps.
yeah, everybody has their own reps.
Yep. So just, anyway, keep in mind,
We have 3.
we also have the representative from Planning Board for Conservation Commission. We do not have one right now, so we're looking for someone to step up to the plate to do that. Just, I'm not asking for anybody to put up their hand tonight, I'm just letting you know the opening's there, and
does that
we
have to
are,
be somebody from the planning board?
yeah,
It's a liaison,
right.
non-voting,
right up your
but
alley,
a
conservation.
liaison.
And last but not least for me, on August 3rd, approximately at noon, is the city employee barbecue, and board members are invited as well. So if you'd like to go to that, if you could let Kalina know so that she can have a head count,
I'll be out of
so we have the right number of hamburgers and hot dogs to feed everyone.
We're going to do it at Peachy Park.
At Peachy Park.
Yes, so peachy.
I'm in
And then there's a rain date,
California.
rain location, right?
Indoor location in case it rains.
It's all been thoroughly figured out.
And that concludes the report.
Okay, thank you. So we talked about the Lake Region Planning Commission, we know what's to start with that, conservation. Any input from the planning department on conservation?
No, they've been very busy, as you can see, with all the CUPs.
And now, council, it's over to you. City council.
I have nothing to report,
Okay, so we'll move on.
except that I'll report back and ask for clarification about what exactly they're looking for impact fees, so I can give Brandy or Dean an idea of what is in the mind of the council.
That works. Okay.
Thank you, David.
So before they give us their little spiel, you're gonna get back to them to find, let them know what they're looking for, so we can focus on that. Is that what we?
Yeah, wait, maybe I do have something. Did you know that the council adopted the change in use for the commercial resort zone? Did you know that?
That's what we said
The
forward.
council, it came before the council. They waived a hearing, they forego a public hearing, and they approved the change of uses that we recommended twice.
Okay.
Remember, it went up there once, they sent it back, we don't like this part about nightclubs, we send it back up, we then send it back up, and so that's been approved.
And that's already earmarked down the road.
So
with the-
now
with the-
that's-
But that was with changes, right?
Huh?
We made changes on that.
That's, it's change of use, change of
Yes,
use,
right.
exactly right. So that's,
Right.
that's the new uses according to our initial recommendations. So, I guess you didn't know that, so.
Okay. Just as some input, we had meetings with the master planning group, and so that, we think we have a vision statement, but that's being massaged, I guess, and regurgitated, and so we made some progress, and, but we have another meeting planned, what, next month sometime?
Yep, 26.
The 26th, so we'll be trucking along with that. Okay, any more input at all? Can we accept the minutes, motion to accept the minutes of June 6th?
So moved.
Second it?
I'll second.
Okay, all approve, all in favor, right? And the important thing here is, on my page here is, can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, do I need that right now, or is there something else that we should be doing?
That's all I got.
I think we're done.
That's it, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Favor.
All right.
Here's your pen back. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I left mine.
What do you want me